Hey guys, Brittany here with IGM Auto doing another car highlight today. I have Bob with me and his beautiful 1940 Deluxe Coupe, Ford Deluxe Coupe. And I'm excited to hear a little more about this and the rebuild, the 3-year frame rebuild that you did on this beautiful car. So why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, starting from the beginning of acquisition?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in brief, I hope I can make it brief. I acquired this car from an elderly family friend of my grandparents. They were ranchers in Arizona, friends of my grandparents in 1965, New Year's Day 1965. I didn't even have a license, but she told me she was too old to drive, whatever that means. I can't conceive of that. But,
that won't be you.
I hope not. I hope not. Drove it home from Arizona with a friend who did have a license, although I did illegally share a good deal of that driving myself with him. Brought it back to California and started out by just doing basic maintenance on the existing engine and drivetrain, a flathead V8, 85 horse, later replaced with a 300 horse Chevy 327, which I still have. It really, in my mind, classifies it as in this day and age, as a kind of a mild street rod, and replaced the original transmission with a Hydromatic, a very popular nowadays turbo 700 R4 General Motors transmission. As a 1965 Chevelle rear end, to which I added an Auburn Positraction unit and shortened the rear axle to make the axle and the bigger tires fit underneath those fenders without modifying the frame or fenders.
Gotcha.
It did turn out to be my daily driver going through school and in college and in my early years of work, and then saw quite a few less miles when I began work and raising a family and so forth, and really got interested in either restoring it to its original condition or going even further in street rodding it when I was nearing retirement. And this is the result. I really debated whether I wanted to give up the original look, like that little like when I first got it, restore it to its original look and performance, or make it something much more streetable and safe and faster, with more modern safety features, and a little more modern look. And this was the result.
It looks like you didn't lose any of the nostalgia in this car, though. It still gives off the original look, but with some modern touches to it. So why don't we check out what's under the hood, and then we can move on to the interior. Now that we've opened up the hood, we can take a look inside, and you can tell me a little bit about the rebuild of this and the specs of what you got going on here. Okay.
Well, this is a Chevy 327. Acquired it as a GM crate engine, 300 horse 327 in 1971. Replaced the original 85 horse flathead V8.
It was 85 horsepower to begin with.
From 85 to 300.
Oh my goodness.
A little bit of a step up.
A little bit.
And on the inside, it's a stock 320 high performance 327. What I've done to the top end of the engine is back when I first acquired the engine, I was to install a Holley 700 CFM double pumper carburetor, and later on a Pertronix electronic ignition. We also added air conditioning to it, and electric fans. The rear end came from a 1965 Chevelle. It's only a 10-bolt rear end, not a 12, but I did add, for a car this light, it'll do. I did add an Auburn Positraction unit to it, which has just been performed fantastically. Shortened the axle so that it would all fit underneath this car with bigger tires. I got American racing torque thrust wheels to go with it. Also very common and popular now. I think that about covers it for the performance
Well, you talked about adding air conditioning and a couple of things that might affect the interior. So how about we take a step over and look at what the inside looks like now?
Very good.
Now we've moved on to the interior of this car, and I'm really excited to learn about all the different changes that you've done to the inside to make it a little bit more comfortable and give it that modern touch.
Okay. Well, on the interior, the most important first change that I made was to replace the original bench seat, which was covered with mohair. That's what a Deluxe Coupe came with, was mohair upholstery, as opposed to what was called broadcloth. And I replaced it with bucket seats.
A little bit more comfortable?
A little more comfortable. Oh, a lot more comfortable. These are more comfortable than my 2018 pickup truck.
Oh.
I can drive 12 hours a day.
What year are these seats? Where did you pull these from?
I got them in out of a 1993 BMW 320i in San Jose, California, and had them recovered in leather, and made the brackets to fit this car with these interior body dimensions.
Oh yeah.
And I chose the BMW because their bucket seats from a small car fit nicely in here with a little bit of space between them, as opposed to
a couple inches of space
as opposed to those from a larger car.
Yeah.
They fit perfectly, and on a BMW or any other sort of luxury car, they're electric on both sides, all electric.
That's nice.
This moves. Of course, that moves back and forth, but note how the back of the seat just has infinite adjustment on it, and simply by with a lever. I even it did not have, but I added for the sake of my wife, heated bucket seats.
Oh, there you go.
Heating elements to them.
That's a great touch.
That's probably the best feature. There's more comfortable than any other car we have, which range from 2010 to 2018. I can drive all day long and not get any backache or anything.
I guess that says something about 1993 BMWs.
Yeah, that's right.
What about like the sound system and all that kind of stuff? Because that definitely looks new as well.
Yeah, the sound system is a modern stereo. This is this plate on the dash is now an air conditioning vent. It's originally the red part of it underneath is called a delete plate.
Oh, okay.
Meaning that you could optionally in 1940 buy a radio with the car. And this deluxe car had no radio.
Oh.
And we were looking for a place to put an air conditioning vent. So we cut a hole in the delete plate and made an air conditioning vent out of it. And air conditioning vents on the sides, on the corners, which were originally ashtrays, which I would never use and didn't let anybody use.
No smoking in this car.
Right. The digital gauges are autometer, although they're digitally operated but have an analog readout.
Oh, perfect.
So it looks more authentic.
Okay, yeah.
And what else? Oh, the steering column is a Flaming River steering column. It's a full tilt steering column, so you can tilt it like a modern car.
Oh, that's really nice. I definitely utilize that feature on my car.
And the steering wheel is a 15-inch replica of the original 17-inch, which was much bigger.
Yeah.
And meant for to be used with strong arms and no power steering. Well, I have power steering and don't
have a smaller steering wheel.
I don't need that much leverage anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's been great learning about your car. But do you want to tell me a little bit more about the story of how this kind of brought you and your brother together? Because I feel like that's a really wholesome part of this car.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. We did discuss a little of that. When I decided to convert this really from what was essentially a stock car to a mild street rod, my brother happened to have just retired and was in the business. He had his own speed shop. And So I took it to him. I worked with him. I wish I could say I did it all, but I didn't. But the upside of that is that it really brought us back together after decades of kind of living separate lives in separate parts of the country, and focused on our own families and our own jobs. And as my wife mentioned to me on my return from one of these trips down there to work with him on it, is she said, I think you've bought a lot more than just a car with this project. My older brother and I really got closer together. But even earlier on, going back a few decades, when I first got the car, the whole family had a hand in it.
Yeah?
My father and I worked on it. He really taught me the basics back in the 1960s. Later on, when I was away at college, my younger brother worked on it quite a bit too.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, right. And he was much more of a get her done kind of a guy. He wasn't as opposed to a high finish kind of a guy, but he was very competent mechanically, if not aesthetically. But he had a big hand in this too. So between my dad, both of my brothers, it really became a family project. It's got as much family tie. It's as much about family as it is about sheet metal and engines.
Yeah. Cars like this and stories like this really bring people together. But thank you again for sharing, the story behind your car and all of the fun projects that were involved in making it what it is today. If you want to see this car in person yourself and hear the stories from Bob himself, then you'll have to check out the Cruisers car show on August 5th in Uptown Gig Harbor. It's a great event. Tons of beautiful cars and history and stories and people like Bob himself. This car in particular is sponsored by the Wynn Group, which is a commercial brokerage here in Gig Harbor. Great for the South Puget Sound. So yeah, again, thank you so much for showing me your car.
Thanks for the opportunity.